this is Amanda Razani, and I'm here with Digital CxO. I'm excited to be here today with Pete Reilly. He is the co-founder and COO of AnswerRocket. How are you doing today?
Amanda, I'm great. How are you doing?
Well, thank you. It's a beautiful day.
It is.
So can you share a little bit about AnswerRocket? What do y'all do?
Sure. Yeah, AnswerRocket is an augmented analytics platform provider. We work with a lot of pretty large brands, Anheuser-Busch, AstraZeneca, and other large brands that are just trying to get a better handle primarily on how their business is doing in the market, what are some of the opportunities in the market. But we also do work in other segments like insurance and finance, helping solve similar analytic problems.
Okay, so recently you had a big AI announcement. Can you share with us?
I can. Maybe before I jump into that, I could sort of back up to a little bit about how AnswerRocket got started, if that's okay. And
yes,
because I think it'll provide a little bit of a context. So we started in 2013 with this idea of, about would it be great if instead of having to, write a SQL query or do some diving into a spreadsheet, if you could just sort of ask a question, a simple question like, what were sales by month, last year or something like that. And we started working with some of these large brands and other companies that I talked about. And what we started to realize was that, that problem definitely exists. It's hard to get answers to some of those questions, but some of them are easily answered on dashboards. And what was really hard was really understanding why something was happening. So looking at a number and seeing it was up or down is fine on a dashboard, but it was really hard to understand why. And typically what you ended up seeing was that a human would end up then having to go, download data or build some charts or build a PowerPoint and sort of tell a story. And sadly, the minute they show up to the person that had the question with the answer, there's another question, right? And so the whole process sort of starts all over again. And this can really delay the ability to make decisions as a business by days or weeks, just because of how long that process takes. And so what we started to see was that, the next problem we need to solve is that answering the why question really quickly and we felt like we can automate that. And we did. And we created this concept of rocket bots and leveraging different machine learning capabilities, things we call skills, to enable users to ask much more sophisticated questions, like literally why are sales down in this market? And it would do the work of, an analyst or so over 5 days to answer that question much more quickly, which is really exciting for the business folks, because then they can take that and do the things they're really good at around, pricing strategies or marketing strategies to sort of overcome what's going on in the market from a competitive standpoint. Now, what we saw was that was successful, but that asking questions and so on for a lot of folks got a lot easier, but we weren't getting where we wanted to in terms of a large scope having a much bigger impact on these companies and making it so that just literally anybody could get in here and do these things. And so, we were going down a path of going sort of our next generation of making natural language easier, making questions easier, and analysis more accessible. And then ChatGPT dropped, and we thought, this is it. And we've been actually keeping an eye on GPT-3 for a while, because it had been out for almost a year and a half before ChatGPT happened. But it was this moment that happened, where the whole world sort of woke up one morning and discovered, what was possible with AI. And we saw that as a really powerful new tool for us to enable users. Because we've been doing natural language search for years, we've been doing natural language generation for years, telling stories about the data automatically. And ChatGPT just opened the door in those technologies to make it just so much easier for people who are not necessarily data literate or super data savvy to ask a question and get a really useful answer back, and making those answers richer, deeper, and more useful. But the other thing that sort of happened was that now all of a sudden everybody else is understanding, like the normal person on the street is understanding what these capabilities are and the power of them and how to bring them to the enterprise. So getting back to your original question, which was, so what is the announcement all about? So what we decided to do is we said, this chat paradigm is really powerful too. So historically, the AnswerRocket product was using almost like this deck building experience. You would ask a question and sort of build a slide in a deck. And what was really nice about the ChatGPT experience is that it was very conversational. It seemed to flow really well and suited itself well to the large language models. So essentially, we took the sort of combined those really powerful attributes of GPT with the powerful attributes that we had with AnswerRocket to create something we call Max. And so our announcement is Max.ai, and this combination is really easy to use chat interaction, but where you're not asking questions about maybe things that the model digested on the internet. We're actually leveraging that capability to ask questions about what's going on in your business, what's driving your business, why are sales going up or down, what's the forecast for sales, and so on. So it's Max is a way to almost provide you with this AI-powered, data analyst. You could just ask these questions that really understands your business and it can give you the answers that you need to drive it forward.
So you're using this AI to directly analyze the data within a certain business.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So questions you might have about maybe using your own data or even third-party data. So maybe you're buying, data from a third party like a Nielsen, and you want to understand, why is my market share up or down, or even your own data. Why are fill rates for supply chain, up or down? And really, but it is the data that you use to run your business.
And as I understand it, you say it's more efficient as far as there's not as much prompt engineering needed, and they can just easily ask questions and get the answers.
Yeah, and for us, we're sort of doing the prompt engineering behind the scenes, if you will, to make sure that we're just using we're just using the right data that's relevant to their question, and that we're building insights on that. So we're doing all that behind the scenes, and the question that the user can ask feels very natural.
So much more efficient and speedier for businesses.
Absolutely.
Well, congratulations. So where do you can you share some use case scenarios for where you see this going for businesses?
Yeah. Look, in very specific use cases that have a lot of experience in, we do a lot in the consumer packaged goods space. So understanding things, the examples I gave, understanding why is market share up or down, or what are maybe some of my opportunities, or what is the forecast for this particular pack size or product in this market, and so on. All questions that we see. Also in CPG, they'll do user surveys around understanding the perception of their brand, and why is my brand power going up or down, or for this market or for this product, and making that just much, much more accessible as opposed to today. They might have to call a third party to go spend a week, digging through that data. Tons of applicability in insurance, finance, and other really essentially any industry that they're going to have this data. They have to do some deep analysis to understand what it is that is going on, and therefore what should they be doing. Has fairly broad applicability. We're seeing a lot of interest in especially sales, marketing, finance, and supply chain use cases, where there's essentially a lot of data that's being consumed by a lot of people to make decisions to drive the company forward.
Wonderful. Yes, it definitely sounds like it can cross into any business sector in one way or another. The use cases of generative AI, it's just fascinating to me. And I know the Chat GPT-4 I was reading, I think yesterday, they said at the end of the fourth quarter of 23, it would have 1 billion users. So that's just incredible how quickly it has been picked up.
Yeah, it's amazing and a lot of fun. I personally use it every day for all sorts of things.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk though a little bit about as magnificent as it is and all the wonderful things it can do, there are some concerns around generative AI, such as safety and bias. So can we talk a little bit about that, and how do you make sure there's not bias and also that it's safe for those who are using it?
Yeah, sure. Big issues, and in fact, I've listened to plenty of interviews with Sam Altman, and he acknowledges that these are very real issues. And in fact, one of the reasons they say that, or he will say that they released ChatGPT was so that because he felt like it wouldn't be right to just wait until it was really, really well optimized and then sort of release that without time for people to sort of adjust and think about, what are some of the pros and cons and considerations and so on. And so you were asking two questions. One was safety, one was bias. And look, to me, it's like a lot of tools that we use in our everyday lives. We can, you can use a knife to cut up vegetables for chicken soup, and you can use it to do, things that are not good, right? And so, so every tool sort of has this, you can use it for good, or you can use it for things that are not so good to build something. You could use a hammer and nails to build something that is maybe not good. So some of that's, I think society is just going to have to, sort of, it's going to judge people obviously on sort of what they're doing. There's going to be some people that are using the technology for nefarious means. I think that the model providers, Sam would say that the model providers have some responsibility to put guardrails around that, right? If I'm using ChatGPT to write, phishing emails or, do other terrible things, there's probably things that the large language model providers can use, do to prevent some of those kinds of things. So there's some there. And then I think folks like us who are maybe just leveraging the API, we also have a responsibility to just make sure that the things that we're enabling are the intended operation of the tool to do good things, to add value. So those are some of the things to think about, I think, around safety. In terms of bias, look, that to the degree that the language model is trained on a data set that has bias, it will have bias. So I think a lot of it feels like a lot is on the providers of the LLM as well, to make sure that the data that they are training the LLM on it is as free from bias as possible. I don't think that we'll ever have an AI that's completely free from bias. And in fact, you may see LLMs being trained with different biases over time. But I think, again, there's a lot of responsibility that falls on the creators of the LLMs to make sure that there's as little bias as possible in the model.
Absolutely. So AI is one important tool when it comes to digital transformation, which is a big term we're hearing these days. What advice do you have for businesses that are looking to digitally transform and are kind of behind and need to get started?
Wow. Yeah. I guess the good news, maybe the good news is this, is if you're behind, the world just changed for everyone all at the same time. And so to the degree that you are maybe considering, one strategy, and that strategy may be affected greatly by AI over the next 6 to 18 months, you do have an opportunity to maybe skip a generation. It reminds me a little bit of, there are parts of the world where they didn't have, our plain old telephone service with telephone wires and so on. They just went straight to mobile and, and cell phone towers, right? So you may actually have an advantage if you're a little behind, because you don't have any sunk cost with trying to do something in a particular way. And you now have the advantage of really looking at it through this very new lens and a revolutionary sort of moment, I think. And I think Bill Gates, he said in a recent article, he said he'd seen two things that he thought were revolutionary. One was the graphical user interface, and the next was this. And so it may be that if you're behind, you actually have an opportunity to maybe even get ahead if you jump on this now and you really embrace it.
So last question, what's in store for AnswerRocket in the future? What do you see 5 years from now?
Wow, 5 years from now. It feels hard to say now because it feels like so much there was ChatGPT and then 3.5 and then 4.0, and it just feels like this stuff is moving so fast. I think the thing that we probably, feel certain is that that more and more of what we do will be enabled by AI, and will just make lives so much better for our customers in terms of, their ability to access their data, get analysis on their data so they can just go act on it. So it just feels like that's something that, it's funny, we've been working on it for years under a certain model, and it just feels like this moves the ball forward so much faster and is probably exponentially more valuable to businesses and users over the next 3 to 5 years. And it's hard to imagine where that ends up in the 5th year. But I think we probably move from where we started thinking about, our solution is an analytic solution, right? So we think of things as databases, or we query databases. And I think over time, maybe we think of the LLM less as a database, and it's enabling much more like a reasoning engine. So I think we start to get much greater power and capability from that to just make our customers and users' lives so much easier.
Well, wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on today and giving us your insights.
Yeah. Thank you.
I look forward to speaking with you in the future.
Likewise. Take care.